Good evening, Nigerians. You're welcome to yet another edition of your program, Towards a Greater Nigeria. I have the pleasure of speaking with the gentlemen that have been pursuing the task of moving the Nigerian economy forward amidst all odds. We are here to support the good works he's doing, and as I've always said, we don't leave it to him alone. He often at times says, join me to move Nigeria economy forward. I'm talking of no other person other than the Governor, Central Bank of Nigeria, in person of Mr. Godwin Emefiele. You're welcome, Governor.
Thank you very much, and it's a pleasure having me on your program. And indeed, it's time for us to say that we need everybody to join us in this battle, in this fight towards making sure that we make Nigeria a better place than it is today. But I must confess that yes, we've achieved a few things, but a lot of work still needs to be done.
It is a known fact that to create an institution, you need a vision and mission. And that philosophy totally applies to every business or human activity. Since its establishment in 1958, the Central Bank of Nigeria, CBN, has worked to uphold the tenets of its many aliases. The CBN has the ultimate objective of ensuring that economic indicators in the country, macro or micro, conjugate to give the regular individual that breath of fresh air that makes commercial endeavor a route worth taking. In the history of the CBN, at no time has it had to battle in the manner it has since the administration of President Muhammadu Buhari, which met an economy on a weird spin and an urgent need to return it to normal rhythm. No wonder then why President Buhari expressly vowed on his inauguration to do everything possible to normalize what had become a worrisome state of the Nigerian economy. His chosen path was to effect key policy changes and return the economy to steady growth. We recall the words of Mr. President in those early days of a daunting task.
Well, with this, I had discussion with the Governor of Central Bank. When the Central Bank is making desperate efforts to stabilize the Naira. I think I'm an economist only by experience. I haven't read...
Experience is good enough, Your Excellency.
Well, the economic books.
Buy it cheap.
but at our stage of development, yes, our main problem, how can we get our industries working again? I'll give you of one area I understand through my personal association, textiles. The Nigerian textile industry used to employ more than 320,000 Nigerians. That's one industry alone, between Kaduna, Kano, Aba, and Ikeja, I think. For that reason, what we realize and what we intend to do is first of all make sure as quickly as humanly possible we get power so that these industries can come up again. And then agriculture will increase the cotton growing areas to grow cotton and ginneries and so on. So the basic infrastructure is on the ground. And then to make sure that this question of imports from toothpick to rice is very irritating. So we sat with the Governor Central Bank, and I think he drew a list of 24 items from rice to toothpick. I say those items, nobody should be given our hard currency for those things.
By his position and responsibilities to the Nigerian people, President Buhari could well have been speaking as the chief executive officer of a country in dire need of economic redemption. He had discussed with the CBN governor, Godwin Emefiele, how to tackle the issues besetting the economy. So the stage was set for work to begin in earnest. Looking back to those early days, a point at which inflation went over 18%, to now when gradual stability has dropped it to a little over 15%. the country's apex bank has every reason to breathe easy and expect more successes. We are now talking about a period when the exchange rate has eased down to 360 naira to the dollar from an unacceptable peak of 525 naira to the dollar. Truly, the CBN has come, seen, and is conquering. But rather than jump to joyous conclusions about performance, the CBN Governor, Godwin Emefiele, chooses a path of cautious optimism and once again spells out what the mission was in those days of unavoidable concern.
From about average of about $100 per barrel, right, for 5 straight years like I talked about. By February 2016, the crude price had dropped at some point to about $28 per barrel. Now, at that time, we began to suffer very serious hemorrhage in our reserves because Nigeria being a heavily import-dependent economy, we saw a situation where revenues from export of crude, which was a major source from which we earned revenues into the reserve bucket, dropped, whereas imports were rising. So of course, naturally, what you see is that the reserve account took the beating.
Emefiele, whose performance as CBN governor is buoyed by over 20 years of banking experience and an academic surgeon that has taken him through the University of Nsukka, Stanford University, Harvard University, and Wharton Graduate Schools of Business, further takes up some happenings within the economy at the time in question, which to him were just discomfiting.
Inflation trending downwards, and of course, because the reserve had gone down, we needed to do a few things to begin to boost the supply of foreign exchange into the market. We introduced a couple of measures, and one of which is what people talk about predominantly today, the investors and exporters window. We did a couple of things to make sure that we brought in confidence into the FX market, making sure that people who want to access foreign exchange are able to access foreign exchange and at good prices. You want to import, you are a small business, you want to import, you need to have access to foreign exchange. You want to pay school fees, you should be able to pay your school fees because you're entitled to it. You want to travel, you need to be able to procure foreign exchange. So we made all this possible, and it helped to a great extent in moderating the market, keeping the foreign exchange market stable. The element of surprise, the element of panic, element of fear, we did a lot to remove those in the system, and that's why you've seen a relative stability in the exchange rate.
It's all good that the Nigerian economy is stirring from its slumber that spelt an ill wind for anyone participating in it. The CBN governor returns to the earlier hint about even the market woman blaming prices on the exchange rate of the Naira. Some may have found it laughable at the time, but Emefiele waves a warning finger and actually intones that the market woman's economic analysis wasn't totally out of place.
Like I said earlier, because this is a highly import-dependent economy, and I dare say that we do have a responsibility as policymakers to reduce the rate of import dependence, right? And that is why the federal government is, through, of course, the president making a very sound pronouncement that, look, we must diversify our economy. It's a statement that needs to be taken very, very seriously. And I say, what we're saying, and I repeat, a market woman, when the price of tomatoes goes up, he says it's because of foreign exchange, makes a lot of sense. Because for as long as you are an import-dependent economy, where you import petrol that is used in transporting the tomatoes, the yams, the cassava, from the onion, from the village to the city or to the market, right? And the price of transportation goes up. If price of transportation goes up, it means the woman who sells peppered tomatoes in the market must also increase the price. And that's the reason we're saying to reduce the incidence of a market woman saying the price of tomatoes has gone up because of foreign exchange, then we must diversify our economy.
Even partisan cynics admit that the Nigerian economy is moving away from labored breathing and showing signs of healthy growth again. What has been the CBN strategy in achieving this? Emefiele takes up the question of the right monetary policy first.
When I came into office in 2014, 2 days after I came into office, I actually read that vision at the Central Bank of Nigeria. I said, look, for the next 5 years, this is what we would like to do. And in the course of saying this, I said, look, that the Monetary Policy Committee, and I'm a member of that committee, and I'm saying the policies that monetary policies we are going to introduce must be those that impact directly on the lives of our people. And by moderating inflation, effectively what happens is that you are trying to moderate the rate of acceleration in prices of food in the market. Exchange rate must not be as high as it was, right? At 525 is unsustainable, okay? And in any case, all the economic models that people use in computing the real effective exchange rate of a currency does not put our exchange rate at 525. It puts it at between about 280, 290, 300, stuff like that. So and that's why we had made sure that we put in place policies that will moderate it downwards from that 525 to about 360 that it is right now. And I can assure you, with the confidence, with the level of stability that we've achieved, I can expect that as all the variables continue to show positive signs, Nigerians can begin to see even better level of exchange rate as we go ahead.
The CBN governor expressed hope that with the continuing rise in the foreign reserves, confidence in the economy will grow and reliance on imports lessened. Invariably, this will shore up the strength of the Naira against other currencies. He, however, says only a tenacious clinging to current remedial measures would make this happen.
For us at Central Bank of Nigeria, we're happy that the trend is looking up. And we would like to continue to take decisions that will continue to push the trend even further upwards. We would not like to take any decision that will upset it. And we are monitoring all macroeconomic data and variables. Anyone that will see me upset it, we will try and see how to really nip it in the bud so that it does not create more problems for us. The direction has to be upward, but it requires a lot of work from everybody.
The CBN has engaged some programs designed to resuscitate the economy, either by taking inflation down or engaging actions to boost investor confidence and ultimately increase employment and productivity opportunities for Nigerian people. Some of these are the financing of small and medium enterprises, SMEs, and action to accelerate the energy that powers productive ventures. In the realm of employment, the current Anchor Borrowers Program, which beyond meeting the yearnings of President Muhammadu Buhari for Nigerians to stop importing what they eat and can produce, has become an effective tool for reducing sad figures on the job market scale.
We started by saying, look, why should we import rice into this country when we can produce rice in Nigeria? Why should we spend scarce foreign exchange to import what we can produce, rice, in Nigeria? And the same goes for very many things. We import rice, we import tomatoes, we import starch. Whereas
the president even said toothpicks.
We import toothpicks, we import starch, whereas Nigeria is the largest producer of cassava in the world.
Very true.
Why should we import starch, which is the output or the product that comes out of
Nigeria,
cassava?
exactly.
Cassava.
Cassava.
Do you understand?
Nigeria.
Right. So the entire story about Anchor started in 2015 when we felt, look, that we should not, confronted by the challenge that there's no foreign exchange to be importing all these items. We said, President now called, he said, look, let's go and start a program that will diversify this economy. Let's start with rice, okay? And then in November 2015, he took us to Kebbi. He said, let's launch it. Let Nigerians see us launch this program that we can grow rice again in our country and feed our people. And beyond, I would say, my wildest expectation, the success is so huge. And we thank God that it's looking very, very good. And the president has said, it's not just about rice. It's about tomatoes, right? It's about fish. It's about all those items that we said, look, because we don't have foreign exchange and we can produce them locally, let's start producing them locally.
Down to earth and simple for a man of his status, Emefiele becomes something of an agroeconomist or the nutritionist, as he mentions with emphasis the huge advantages of eating locally produced rice.
Eat Nigerian made rice, and that's why we're saying buy it and eat it and consume, because it's not preserved with anything. That's why, and I must warn. There's a tendency to say, oh, Nigerian rice, okay, you buy it, it doesn't stay too long before it gets spoiled. No, you must eat it. Don't keep it for 1 year or 6 months, because it is fresh, it is nutritious. Remember, when I was growing up,
tell me,
my mom, right, anytime she cooked rice, you could be sitting 100 meters away. You will be perceiving the aroma of rice.
Natural rice.
That is the natural rice. The rice that is imported, you can't, even if I stay inside the kitchen with you, I can never perceive the odor. That is the difference.
Some Nigerians are skeptical about those moves by the Buhari administration to seek funds to revamp the economy from outside the shores of the country. The recently approved $5.5 billion Euro bond came up for mention. What does the CBN governor think about this procedure?
Given the situation that confronts us today, the savings is not there. The revenue is very low, and government is doing whatever can be done to improve the revenue, but at the same time do not impose excessive pain on the people in an attempt to raise revenue, so it does not even adversely impact on them, right? Yes. So revenue is low. So if revenue is low, the only other option, therefore, for government to execute its own very, very laudable projects, which will impact positively on the lives of the people, is to undertake borrowing. And the borrowing that we're talking about are meant for projects that are infrastructure in nature. You're talking about building roads, building the rail, making sure that you will refurbish our airports, power, and all that. These are very, very strategic projects that, if implemented, you have good roads, then the cost of transporting goods from the village to the market will be less, right? If you build power plants, right, what it does, it makes it easy for us to improve our level of electricity generation. We can have electricity in our homes and in our lives. Even if you are an artisan, you are a trader, you are a hairdresser, you can get electricity at a price of, say, much less than if you were buying, if you bought a generator to run your business. So that is how what government is doing, say, in this case, borrowing money, right, to execute some of these projects, impacts positively on the lives of our people.
No government sets out to employ the vast majority of individuals who need jobs. Nigeria is not an exception. Since economies are mostly driven by private initiatives, the CBN governor naturally had to address the issue of the many endeavors which have received one support or another through quite a number of government schemes. Emefiele was in his element, as he became something of a school teacher in terms of the clarity of his explanations.
Data that we have shows that 90% of businesses in Nigeria are SMEs. SMEs, therefore, necessarily, if we want to grow in the Nigerian economy, there must be mechanisms put in place to ensure that SMEs grow, that SMEs remain alive. Do you understand? So that is what we are trying to do by making sure that SMEs are small, medium enterprises. You understand? You're giving loans to agriculture, the anchor borrower, it is for the SMEs. You are giving loans, for instance, we have the 220 billion Naira micro, small and medium enterprise MSME fund that we have in place, which I would say is just barely about 50% utilized. And what we are trying to do is to put in place measures that makes it easy for banks and for people to access this fund. Yeah. Because I get confronted by, oh, you say you have 220 billion.
They don't know how to access.
The banks are not giving us and all that. And we're trying to say whether the banks like it or not, whether I would like it or not, this fund got to get to these small people. And that's why the bankers rose from their annual retreat just a few weeks, about 2 weeks ago, and we said, we must put in place or certain mechanisms that must make it easy for these people to access these loans. Here we're saying, in fact, the central bank currently has close to about 26 billion sitting with it under what we call the Agricultural and Small Medium Enterprise Fund that we also have different from these ones.
Yeah.
Now, by the end of this year, that fund grows to almost about 60 billion because that fund comes from 5% of the profit after taxes of the banks. We just take them and then say, look, these funds are meant to support agric and SMEs. What the banks did when we held the retreat is that, you know what, out of these monies, for instance, say if 60 billion is available at the end of this year, they said, take 30 billion out of this money, right?
Yes.
Identify cooperatives. Do you understand?
Yeah.
Identify cooperatives and say, train them under just something close to what we're doing under Anchor Bora program.
Yeah.
Train people. You can say, for instance, we had people who came to address us at the retreat. Tara came to address us. That's cosmetics, right? We also have fashion design group coming to address us. We also have some small businesses coming to address us and all that. We say, okay, can you organize yourselves into some form of clusters where we can make this fund can be made available to you, right? We're also saying, for instance, if you are a farmer in the village,
Yes.
how do you harvest your rice? You harvest your rice by collecting this locally made, is it cutlass for harvesting?
Manually.
It's very manual.
Yes.
Or how do you hallow your rice? You use drums to be hitting the thing, and then you see a lot of wastage in that process.
Very true.
Well, I say what we want to do is that we would look for a way to source those mechanical equipment, and we will after determining the cost of this equipment,
Yeah.
we can say this cooperative should have this implement for harvesting.
Yeah.
This other cooperative in the same village should have this equipment that is meant for harrowing
Whatever.
the rice, whatever.
Yes.
So with that, and grant them loan for about 7 to 8 years, 7 to 9 years. Do you understand?
Okay.
At interest rate of not more than 5%.
That sounds good.
And we are saying that this will be achieved because the money is available.
Okay.
The Central Bank of Nigeria, with the Bankers Committee, working together with a presidential initiative under the office of the Vice President, we're trying to see to it that these funds get to the people. There are also what we can call big SMEs, medium SMEs. We are also trying, under some form of risk-sharing arrangements, saying that we should have what we call NASME. NASAL is for agric. We also say we should have Nigerian incentive risk for small and medium risk sharing for small and medium enterprise companies, where we are saying the central bank and NASAL will share the risk and the burden of loan with the banks.
Okay.
So that would now encourage the banks to show more, I use the word mercy, sensitivity, have mercy on these poor people.
Yeah.
And begin to say, okay, bring your proposals, let's work together. But the important thing is that people must also build up on their credit history. They must have very good credit. There's character. Character is very, very important.
And
you take a loan, and I keep saying it,
Yes.
the bankers are the easiest people to deceive.
Okay.
You take a loan of 1 naira today, you pay it tomorrow. The same bank will give you 2 naira tomorrow. So, but I think it's an opportunity for me to say, when you take a loan, you pay. When you pay, because the loan is going to be given to you at extremely subsidized
Rates.
not more than 5%. If you can access those loans at those pricing, and for an extended period of time, for as high as 5, 7, 9 years, then you should not have any problem repaying those loans. So those are some of the things that we're going to do in the coming year to see to it that we really give support to small businesses, to small farmers, because we recognize that if we support these people who constitute 90% of business in Nigeria, what we're doing is we're creating jobs for people, and through that means we're increasing and improving level of productivity that will also help make life meaningful and better for our people and improve our gross domestic product.
A meeting with Nigerian Central Bank Governor Godwin Emefiele, from our experience, is something the interviewer should look forward to. He was clear with purpose and punchy with explanations. In his final proof of the journey out of the woods, he says this about the rising Nigerian foreign reserves.
We've seen the reserves now move up to as high as 38 billion as we speak today. We're going to close the year with at least 38 billion from as low as 23 just about 14 months ago. And the drive will continue to be that we must continue to push harder, because there's one of my deputy governor that says that your reserve is like your sign of manhood. Okay?
Yeah.
So we would need to build on it to ensure that we earn the respect of Committee of Nations, so they know that we know what we're doing and that we're pushing our economy in the right direction.
Show me a successful helmsman, and I will point to you the competent team he is working with. Our program will return with comments and views of those individuals that are Emefiele's proud lieutenants in the CBN team of achievers. Join us.
Well, viewers, this is Here We Call It a Day. It's been so enlightening, interesting, instructive. I've learned a great deal from this. I'm sure you too have learned a great deal. Much more importantly, at the forefront of the Nigeria's economy, getting it right, making it move forward, getting it to the height that we so desire, in line with President Muhammadu Buhari's agenda, is the CBN, the governor, and the entire entity that make up the Central Bank of Nigeria. He said it earlier on, join hands with him. I say join hands with us to be able to build a better Nigeria. God bless you. Good night.